I know I've kept you waiting for a long time for this Scotland sketchbook tour. And yeah, I just wanted it to be the right time to show you. And I think now is that time. So I hope you're ready. Just a quick recap. So I was fresh off the enchanting green hills of Ireland, where I had the pleasure of creating art and connections with some truly magical humans. But armed with my trusty sketchbook, I embarked on an almost 3-week adventure through the Highlands of Scotland with my dear friend Lucy. Now let's get back to the sketchbook tour. Really quickly, the stickers on my sketchbook are these ones from me. This one is one I got at a tourist shop in Scotland. And this one is from Lauren Morsley, which I got at a market. Very cute. And the sketchbook is by Stillman and Byrne, the beta series. Really beautiful, gorgeous, thick paper that was so lovely to paint and draw on. I also have a secret second sketchbook. And I'll explain why in a sec. So let's get into it. Let's go and have a look at some paintings and drawings of my trip and journey and adventure through Scotland. Okay, to the desk. Oh. Yes, I really did stub my toe. Here's another look at the sketchbook. You can see it's gone on an adventure with me. Sometimes when you're traveling, the spaces you need to work are kind of rugged or small. So I did get a bunch of paint on the back of it, on the edges of it, and like on the edges of the paper and stuff. I really like that. I love it when a sketchbook gets all chunky and used and loved. So like I said before, this is the beta series of the Stillman and Byrne sketchbook. It's beautiful. It's got really, really thick 270 GSM heavyweight paper. My opening page is one that I wanted to both be like a mixture of fun and also informative, because I knew I was going to be turning this book into an art book at a later time. I wanted to make sure that I had lots of different information in all sorts of different varieties. So I have this little Scotland map on the right hand side, which I decorated with some thistles and some nice green patterns. Also included the Shetland Islands and the Orkney Islands at the top there. Use my Tombow markers. We started our journey in Glasgow, drove up to Glenfinnan, drove all the way up to Wick, back down through to Dornoch, and then we spent a really huge day driving through the Cairngorms and ended in Edinburgh. So we did that over about 2.5, nearly 3 weeks. So I like to include some of my swatches as well. Yeah, my front page is just like kind of fun, bit of an introduction, some colours, some doodles, some this and that. So I should also preface this by saying a lot of the artwork in this sketchbook isn't in order. I tried to keep up with it, but we were just so busy and I was still working on my Ireland sketchbook. But yeah, so it'll jump around a little bit. The first thing we did when we got to Glasgow was check out the Keelan Coos. We found a little art market, which was amazing, and got these beautiful dresses from Irregular Sleep Pattern, which we love. And Lucy and I also got some of this paper from Cass Art when we were in London before we even went to Ireland. So we've been painting with that on and off. It's nice to stick those little ones in. And yeah, and then all of a sudden we're driving through the Highlands. We're driving through Glencoe, Glenfinnan, up to Fort William and stuff like that. I did notice that I spelt Glencoe wrong multiple times. This is a bit of colour study. I used to do colour studies a lot when I worked in animation, and I love doing them, and I often forget about them. And because there was so much intense, beautiful overwhelm when it come to driving through the Highlands of Scotland up to Glencoe, I couldn't deal with the amount of detail and the amount of colours, so I think doing a colour story was a really good way for me to kind of deconstruct it a little bit and try to understand the colours going on. This was a tremendous day. Lucy and I arrived in Glenfinnan and we stayed in these beautiful little eco-bothies, and about a 45-minute hike, we found our way up to the top of this little mountain, I don't know, this amazing view over the Highlands, and we sat there and painted this or drew this. I drew it using Tombow markers for a while together, and I drew some of the little weeds growing out of the side of the path that we were walking along as well. And there's some little photos of us along the way on our journey up through the Highlands. This page makes me feel really happy. We had a really, really wonderful day that day. And this is still in the same day. So the painting of Lucy there with her pink backpack and the purple hat, that was a photo I took of her as we were walking up to that spot that we drew. And I later painted it really loosely, really roughly. And I really like how it turned out. It took a lot of self-restraint to not paint in those white bits. I also recorded some of the wildflowers that I saw along this little hike and put them in kind of like a strip, which is really satisfying. I turned this into a sticker actually. It was for the October Patreon art rewards. And some little drawings of other little scenes we saw along our walk. These are all done with Tombow markers, but the painting of Lucy is watercolour. And I think this is one of my favourite pages in the entire sketchbook. It's very nice, makes me feel very good. And it got a really good reception on Instagram too, which is just lovely. Now, it's been several days. Lucy and I have driven up to Wick, which is where my mum is from, which is where many generations of my ancestors are from. And one of the things that I really wanted to do that was on my bucket list of what to do when we got to Scotland was go to this location, the Old Man of Wick, which is a beautiful old castle. It was built in 1200 or something. It's mostly eroded away. And unfortunately, you can't go up to it anymore. You used to be able to go right up to it in the past. But yeah, it's all blocked off now from erosion. I collected some little wildflowers while I was there. And we painted that en plein air. So that's done using watercolours. Now we're travelling back down to Dornoch and stopped in at Dunrobin Castle. I was really excited to go to Dunrobin Castle. From memory, I went there once. It was really beautiful. The gardens were really beautiful. Lucy and I found a spot, sat down, but unfortunately it started raining. We got about 10-15 minutes worth of painting in. I pre-blobbinated the background and started painting with the art graph. It's like a watercolor graphite, which is really fun. And then later I went on the top and finished it and did some other drawings using the brown brush pen. Here are some more. See, we're jumping all over the place. This is my great auntie Jean. So this is my mum's auntie, my grandfather's sister, and the lighthouse at the Wick Pier. I tried to make it really quite flat. I was trying a flat-ish style, and I quite like how this looks. Wick is quite grey, it's quite flat, it's quite, dreary, but beautiful in its dreariness, so I feel like that captures it. And then this is Dornoch Beach, which is a beautiful day that Lucy and I had together when we went to the beach together. And it was middle of summer. It was beautiful. There were dogs, there were people everywhere. And we sat and painted the beach for a little bit and got a bit sunburnt. And at Dornoch Cathedral, there was a little wooden mouse carved somewhere that my cousin was like, you have to go find this mouse. So we went hunting for the mouse. Here are some more drawings of Wick. At the top are little vignettes of our drive into Wick, all the way from Glenfinnan. We drove from Glenfinnan to Wick, which was several hours. And Lucy took photos out the window for me because I drove. And I went back and looked at those photos and drew these while we were in Dornoch and had a really good time. They're all Tombow markers. I didn't bring a grey Tombow with me because I don't like the grey, so I built up greys with different colours like blues or purples and a creamy, peachy, light brown colour to build up my greys. And I just feel like it gave it more life. It was more interesting to look at, more oomph. So I really like this piece. This is the Wick River, and that's the Wick side. And it was really interesting to draw. I don't tend to draw a lot of buildings and castle stuff, so it was a bit of a challenge. Now we're back in Dornoch again. We were lucky to be there on the night that they do the pipe band practices or pipe band performances. So they do it most Saturdays, I think, when the weather is nice. And yeah, I took some photos, which I went back and later drew. The main fella here, he's actually the illustration logo of their like billboard thing. I had to go and draw him. And these two people, I took screenshots of videos that I did and drew them. We stayed at a really cute little Airbnb, like animal sit, and looked after a bunch of chickens and some doggies and a cat and hedgehogs. So that's me drawing the chickens, and just some other like cute little things, some thistles, you know, I love drawing thistles, and some clovers there. That was a really lovely stay. And then this page is from when Lucy and I were leaving Dornoch through the Cairngorms. We ended up getting out to do some drawing and it started raining, so we ran under this bridge and spent 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, sitting under the bridge and did a little bit of drawing. Not sure if I really like this piece. I don't know, it's a bit weird, bit rushed, but it's nice. The memory's nice. There's a little self-portrait. This is how I felt the whole time being in Scotland. There's another little drawing of a moment in Glenfinnan, the monument. Again, trying to like figure out grey. Some little like carving designs that I put on that paper. This is actually referencing a photo that I took while I was back in Glasgow of a Highland cow across the water. This was a really special day. As we were driving through the Cairngorms, we saw that there was a castle called Castle Roy. Lucy's old heart dog was called Roy, a greyhound, who we had to say goodbye to last year. So we thought, let's do a little pilgrimage. Let's go to see Castle Roy. And it was gorgeous. There was this huge Highland cow and this weird old sheep that we thought was dead for 90% of the time, but he was fine. And I tried to stylize this painting. I tried to use a lot of white. I tried to refrain from filling in every single space, which is what I usually do. And I did a bit of like graphic looking grasses as well. I had a lot of fun with this. You know, there's a part of me that could have really like pushed and done a lot more and like done too much, and I would have been mad at myself for doing too much because I wanted to challenge myself to leave a lot of white spaces. But yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. And I really like the little borders on the side as well. It's a Tombow drawing from Glenfinnan, the Glenfinnan Viaduct, which you might recognise if you watch Harry Potter. And yeah, it was a really gorgeous area, amazing location. Over here is a little challenge I did for myself, which also became an art prompt day. So it's the same reference image, but with two different colour bases. So one is an orange base and one is like a purple base. And then just to see how the vibes and the colours change depending on what base you use. Really, really interesting. And I liked noting down what colours I used and having them side by side. It was a really good art prompt day. And down the bottom is just like a little coaster I found and another little Tombow painting. Over here, we're back in Wick, the Wick Harbour. It's got pretty smudgy here. It's not my best drawing, but there was an amazing rainbow like shooting out of a red boat on the Wick Harbour when we arrived, so I had to draw that. The little butterfly I saw when I was at the old man of Wick. There's Lucy living the best life ever. It's kind of like a bit of a play page, which is nice. So this is representing my time in the Cairngorms. We saw lots of beautiful birds, the mountain ranges, the heather. So I tried to go from like the top of the world all the way to the bottom of the world. So birds at the top, the mountain, and then we've got the mid-range where there's houses, and at the bottom some like little weeds and flowers. And I used my Prismacolor pencils for this one. This is like the only time pretty much I used my Prismacolor pencils. And I was, again, trying to embrace a bit of white space, line work with scribbles, like directional lines, and just being loose and a bit of negative space, a bit of positive space. I really like this page. A lot of experimentation. It was good. This is a scene from Drumnadrochit, which is one of my favourite towns in Scotland. We were there. I was there with my auntie back in 2012, and it was just like a magical fairy kingdom. It's changed quite a bit now. It's a lot more touristy, but It's so quaint, it's so cute. So I did this painting using watercolors, and again, white spaces, little white bits, just trying things out here, and a little bit of dry brushing as well. I really like this painting. And some cute little thistle decoration at the top. I just use like a really fine liner. Yeah, I really like those two. I think they're a very cute little addition to this page. The hot pink is an ink, and I painted with blue ink on top, and it just like went a bit weird. So anyway, skip past that one. This is Car Bridge, which was amazing. It was at the beginning of our Cairngorms Day trip, and it's just like this beautiful, huge hand-built bridge that is now like mostly eroded away. You can't go on it or anything like that, but it was stunning. We were driving and I saw it out the corner of my eye, and I was like, quick, find the next side road, and turned down it, and like we ran out there and sat and watched the river flowing through this beautiful structure for a while, and then went back and painted it. I used ink and a bit of watercolor as well. Yeah, just also mixing up the full-on maximalist with the white space kind of style. I don't know. This is another page commemorating our Cairngorms National Park trip. I can't even explain how purple everything was. It was so vivid and amazing, and I cried. The heather, the little wild heather flowers are just so like rich and gorgeous and just covered all the hills and mountain ranges. So I wanted to do a page that was kind of really purple and fuchsia to remember how purple everything was. I used a mixture of watercolor and Tombow markers on that page. This is really cute. So this is Lucy and I having a little outdoor bath while we were in Glenfinnan, in our little eco-bothy stay. There was this beautiful bath that we filled up with really hot water. It was raining. We just talked about life. We talked about everything, and it was just so deliciously gorgeous. What a beautiful time. And there's a little ink painting of just a cute little shack that was in Wick somewhere. I'm not sure what this thistle is, but anyway. This is another scene from Glenfinnan, or around Glenfinnan, around the Highlands. It might be like closer to Fort William, I can't quite remember. But yeah, just rolling green. I couldn't like really translate it very well, but there's a massive mountain behind all those clouds up there. Like you can't even see because of the mist, but yeah, just playing with some frame stuff, medieval vibes, because that's how I feel when I think of Scotland. Another moment where I accidentally spelled Glencoe wrong. I did that so many times. When I was making the art book, I had to like really make sure that I was spelling Glencoe properly all the time, double checking all the pages. So there's a Tombow marker drawing on top left on a view on the way to Wick. And this is actually really cute. This is a photo of my great-grandfather and my great-uncle. And one day my great-uncle, Uncle George, walked into the post office as an adult, saw this promotional postcard or this promotional poster and said, "That's my father and I." So I love that they sort of became part of the Wick heritage in that way. Another little painting of Glencoe. This is a fun page. Along the top, I did a strip of different thistle breeds. Is that what you call them? Varieties. And I tried to like stylize them, make them kind of cartoony, using a dark background. So it was really fun to kind of cut in and around. I drew them really messily first and then used my dark brown to like clean it up a little bit. So they're using Tombows. A couple more little paintings of Glencoe on the drive through Glencoe, just trying to capture it in as little detail as possible. But like, it's impossible to not put too much detail in because it's just like the most phenomenal view ever. That's the road to the right. These mountains are just ginormous. I'm not used to seeing these sorts of things in my daily life, so it was very amazingly, beautifully overwhelming. And a little drawing of Lucy to the side there, which I think captures the feeling very well. This is a little watercolor painting from another Cairngorms scene. I just loved letting the watercolor be watercolor here, letting the sky get really blotchy, building up different layers and different tonal variations. Another little Tombow drawing of a view driving in towards Wick. This is the mound, which is like a very nice looking hill. And just some medieval Thistle drawings in my sketchbook using the Tombows as well. This was like actually a page of swatches that I had done before going away. If you watched my video of me preparing for the trip, you would have seen me I think I've recorded myself swatching all of my supplies at the back here. And as I was making my artwork of Scotland, I got to this and I was like, I needed these pages to put artworks on, and why did I waste them doing swatches? So I ended up sticking on a couple of paintings or drawings that I had done on top later using some paper that I had bought while I was in Glasgow. So it's kind of nice. They're only just like washi taped in, so nothing too permanent. And this page as well. This is a little poem or a little story that I wrote. You'll be able to read it if you buy the art book. It's just like a little stream of consciousness story that I did on a typewriter that I bought when I got home. I found at the up shop for really cheap. It was like the second thing I ever did when I got home from Scotland. I bought a typewriter, wrote that little story. So I ended my Ireland sketchbook with a self-portrait of me responding to how it felt being in Ireland, and I did the same thing with Scotland here. Scotland holds a lot more nostalgia, a lot more of this like feeling of not being somewhere where you feel like you should be. So I did this artwork kind of, with those feelings in mind, just exploding with being part of the nature, being part of the beautiful landscape. And I wrote this little note, which I'll read for you now. As I filled this sketchbook, I felt myself blending into the landscapes all across Scotland. I got wonderfully lost in there. Flowers, mountains, animals, bridges, rivers, ancient ruins all swirled together with my heart and my paintbrushes. Each page is a collection of memories, capturing the joy and wonder of becoming one with Scotland's beauty. Now, as I close this sketchbook, I feel the beauty of my ancestral home in a sparkle in my heart. So that's the main sketchbook. As I said before, I have extra work as well, including another sketchbook and some loose paper. So I've been putting together an art book of my sketchbook. So there's an art book coming of the Scotland sketchbook and the Ireland sketchbook. Now, because the Scotland sketchbook has significantly less pages in it than the Ireland sketchbook was, I didn't have enough paintings. I didn't have enough drawing to fill up a new art book with, because I am making them both 80 pages long. So this sketchbook only has something like 50 something pages. So I had to then, when I got home, I realized this after I'd scanned everything in, that I needed to make more work, which I wasn't mad about, because I felt like I needed to paint more and document more of my Scotland trip, because I didn't feel like I did enough. So I got this little sketchbook. It's nothing fancy. The pages are kind of like flimsy, not that great, but the Tombow markers and watercolors look really nice on them, as long as you don't like overglug it. So I'm going to flick through this quite quickly because I don't want to spoil too much of the art book, which I will show you when it comes, when it arrives. It's on its way. I got a message yesterday saying that it's on its way. So I did a mixture of different sized pieces, different like textures. I wrote some stuff, some like journal entry style things to put into my art book. So this sketchbook is definitely less beautiful, like less curated. The pages aren't as well thought through. I'm sort of just painted or drawn in elements, which I then was able to scan and kind of piece together in as a new page in my books. So yeah, like a lot of the writing had kind of disjointed, which I then fixed up in Photoshop and moved around and made it look like a finished thing. So a little bit cheating, but also who cares? Like this one, for instance. I drew this picture of Lucy and I having ice cream, but I didn't leave space for the arm and the ice cream, so later that got fixed up. And yeah, I just enjoyed also working in this one. It was sort of a less pressure sketchbook, which was lovely, because in my sketchbooks, I've been making spreads generally. Like the Ireland and the Scotland sketchbook were all full of like well thought through spreads. You know, it was kind of like indulgent, really nice to work in this little sketchbook where everything was just a kind of a disjointed mess that I then got to cut out digitally and put together and make it all nice and lovely and spotless and spick and span and gorgeous and glossy. So yeah, that is all the work I made from my Scotland trip. What an amazing trip it was. It was tremendous in every way. Thank you for watching my sketchbook tour, and I'll see you next time. Okay, tooroo!